So now water is something which is the most important resource, not only in terms of resource, but it is something which is our life. Our 90% of the water of our body is made up of water. So we can maybe think of living without food for some time, but without water we cannot live. Okay, so it's an important resource for life, not just to human beings, but to all the living beings, most of the living beings. We cannot live without water. Water is source of energy. It helps in that metabolic process by which we get the energy. Okay, and we have also seen that even in the photosynthesis process, where the plants are preparing their own food by using carbon dioxide and chlorophyll pigment, they are also using water. Okay, so we take water for granted because it's present in abundance in nature in the form of water vapors and in the form of the water bodies. We get the water on the tap. So probably that there are likely chances that we do not realize that how valuable this resource is and how valuable it has become because of the stressful conditions that we have created for the water. Okay. So in coming few slides, we will learn and we will understand some very important facts about water as a in general, and how this pressure has been created over the water resource in these times, and what are the um, likely consequences if we keep on exploiting this resource. Okay? So before that, we first understand how much and what is the distribution of the water. So coming onto this left side, there's a small circle. Now this is the global water. So in this case, we have 97% of, wait, I'm sorry. Fine, that's fine. Okay. So 97% is ocean water and only 3% is the fresh water. That implies it is not saline. It is something from where we can derive the water for drinking purpose. Now, fresh water, which is 3%, doesn't mean that it is a drinkable water. Okay. There is a water. Now, out of this 3%, if we assume कि हम इस 3% को 100% मान के चलते हैं, and we keep our graph as if we start looking into the things, so out of this 3% of this fresh water, most of it is locked in ice caps and glacier, which is around 69%. Okay? And around 30% is occupied by groundwater. And in this 1% only, there are other sources and some surface water. Okay? So we can see that surface water is only 0.3% when we are talking about this as 100% in fresh water. So अगर हम 3% में इसको assume करें, it's very, very small. That will be 0.3% of this 3%. That is the amount of the surface water that we have. Okay? Most of us, we are dependent on our drinking water on the groundwater. And as I had already told you in our previous discussions, that because groundwater is less contaminated, it has a proportionate amount of minerals. So it is easier to go for groundwater, because for the surface water, certain other steps and procedures have to be included in order to make it drinkable. So we mostly prefer for groundwater because it's sort of ready-made water, right? Now we see that 69% of water is already locked in ice caps and glaciers. So this is also something very, very important to understand, that because most of these ice caps, the adjacent water body to them is around what? Oceans. So if they will melt, they will immediately become part of ocean water, and this water will become waste. This will turn into a waste, which it will, because we have no source. In case melt hone par we extract that water, or we have that, or we can create some diverting channel so that this fresh water or this melting water can be taken, can be stopped from becoming part of the marine water. It has to eventually become part of marine water once they will melt. Now, if we talk about some glaciers which are formed in the mountain caps, which are the source for the rivers, then of course the rate of melting and the rate by which we will consume is different. For example, Say for example, means I can consume only 3 liters of water in maybe in some 7 hours of time for drinking purpose. Now, if I am provided with 10 liters of water, for me 10 liters is a waste because I only want to have only 3 liters out of it. Similarly, when the glaciers will melt, although there will be a huge amount of fresh water in the rivers, but that will be at such a rapid rate that there is no mechanism by which we can divert this water or we can keep it for a store. All this water will get swept away to the oceans or to the seas, okay? Or it will create floods. Okay? So, so of course we cannot think or we shouldn't imagine about okay, let's derive water from ice caps and glaciers because these are the the permanent storage of the fresh water. Now let's talk about 30% of the groundwater and of course the surface water. Now in this 0.3% of the surface water, 11% is occupied by swamps and only 2% forms the river. Rest 87% is occupied by lakes. Okay? So it must be an interesting fact for us because we mostly think rivers are in majority carry the surface water, but actually it's the lakes that carry this huge amount of water, and it's far much more in quantity as compared to rivers. Even swamps have much more water percentage in comparison to the rivers. Okay, so for the drinking purpose, most of the population is dependent on this 30%. That is 30% of this 3%. Okay, and um, uh, because of this, it has created huge pressure on the groundwater with which the levels are going down. Okay? So if we say, or if we look into what is the amount of fresh water, and if we see, so it's about the size of the small drop, which can be considered, or which can be compared as 1/3 the area of US. This is the total area which contains that fresh water, which is available to us from where we can obtain the drinkable water. Rest all water is either locked or it is present in marine form or in a saline form in the oceans. Okay? So the projected estimation says that if we continue taking the water with the same rate, now by 2050, population is going to become some around 100 lakhs. Okay? And in the last 20th century, the population has tripled. And in that ratio, water, instead of becoming the requirement of the water, instead of becoming triple, it has become 6 folds. Okay. So this is quite interesting. Now let's see. एक तो हमारे previous centuries में इतने rapid rate पे population का increment नहीं हुआ. यहाँ पे सिर्फ एक century के time में population has become triple. And this is a huge this is a very high rate. First thing. Second thing, on the other hand, with the increase in this population, because the pressure, because it has gone high at a very rapid rate, so the dependency and the extraction of the water has also increased with that rate. Now that hasn't increased in proportion to the growing population, but it is growing in a sort of arithmetic progression. Okay, it has become 6-fold. So there are likely chances that if in another century this population again gets triple, it will increase 9-folds rather than 6-fold, or it will increase 12-folds. This is a dangerous sign. This is a very dangerous sign. So it's been predicted that by 2050, our manufacturing industry will need the requirement of the water for manufacturing processes will increase and go up by 400%, whereas for household purposes it will go up to 130%. It implies that if right now any industry is using 100 ml of water, so by 2050 the same process has to will need 400 liters of water, okay, around 4 times. Similar is with the household. Okay, for example, if right now we are using 100 liters, so in the next, and by 2050, we will be needing around 130, the 230 liters of water. Okay, so out of this water, interestingly, the small percentage of groundwater or the surface water that we have, not all water is drinkable or is accessible. Accessible matlab wahan tak pahunch honi chahiye. Even if something is available, we know that okay, there are a lot many things, but not everything is achievable, or we cannot have an access to them. Similarly, is with this water. Out of this very, very small percentage of the groundwater and the surface water. Not not it means it's not 100% accessible, and very small percentage is accessible because either the water is in highly unhygienic condition, or it has been polluted, or it has been or it's naturally logged, or there are some geographical barriers by which we cannot use. For example, if there is some pond or a big lake in a wild, we won't be able to go there to bring water from there. It's not possible. Okay? So it's been found that 1.8 billion people, which is around some 180 lakh people, they are drinking water that is contaminated by fecal material. And out of this, 80% is directly poured out into as a wastewater into the river system or the groundwater system. 30% of it is losing in the form of a leakage. Now, when we will discuss in further slides, I'll show you the data that that leaking tap, that tap tap karta hua jo tap hai, how much amount of water it can waste. Okay? And it's an eye opener because when we are seeing that dripping tap, it's for about 1 minute, maybe 2 minutes. So it's difficult for us to imagine how much amount of drops it's going, and we calculate it for over an hour, and then we calculate it for a month, and then we calculate it for a year. But if we start doing this, we will actually come to know that this will change. The small drop water will change into a huge volume of water in form of a waste station. This type of water is known as your non-revenue water, which has no track record which is not added into that list of consumption of water, because ये तो भूत की तरह गायब हो जा रहा है, इसके तो बारे में पता ही नहीं है. Okay, so US invests around $114 billion per year to make the water drinkable and creating some sustainable development goals so that this water can be used efficiently. And around 12.6 million deaths every year takes place because of drinking or having this contaminated water. It's a huge. It means that 12.6 lakh people. It's somewhere around 1 crore 26 lakh. Okay. Anyway, so what is nation's water footprint? First, as we have understood, as we went through this concept of carbon footprint, that is the amount of carbon that is associated with any product. Okay? Either that carbon is associated in the form of the CO2 that will be emitted by that product, or it's the amount of CO2 that has been emitted during the making or manufacturing of that product, or during the transportation of that product. So that is its carbon footprint. For example, if I say water bottle, now of course, water bottle is not going to release any CO2, but during the process of manufacture, the electricity consumption, during the transportation process, the petrol or the fossil fuel consumption, that CO2 amount is associated with that product, which is its carbon footprint. Okay. Similarly, water footprint is the total amount of water being consumed by any system, any manufacturing unit, or any person. That is your water footprint. Okay. And in this water footprint, if we rank our countries, so China ranks first, followed by US, then India, and then Brazil, and then Russia. So we can see the China and India, which are the part of the Asian adjacent Adosi Padosi, they are consuming huge amount of water. Okay? And followed by, of course, US. US is the reason for the high water footprint is not because their population is high. It's mostly because they are investing more in terms of creating technologies and economy, and that consumes huge amount of water. Okay? So now we understand this very interesting concept on virtual water. Okay, so like for example, if I ask you, okay, what is the amount of, you have to calculate the amount of water being consumed by you, or the water that has been consumed by you. Okay, so what will be your answer? How will you do that? You will start, once you get up from the bed, you will go and calculate and will measure the wait. Okay, has anyone dropped a message? Okay, because I cannot see one. Anyways, okay. So of course we will measure the amount of water we are using for brushing the teeth, and for bathing purpose, for cleaning our floors, for washing the vegetables, for the the amount of water that we are using in cooking purposes, in flushing, etc. And that will be the total amount of water consumption, which will be our footprint, my footprint or the footprint of my house, water footprint of my house. Okay? But there is a huge portion of water which is still not accounted, or which is still not got into this account in this account. Okay? So can anyone tell what do you mean when I am saying here is virtual water? Anyone? Please go ahead. Virtual means something which is invisible. What do you mean by what do you think is here virtual water referred to as?
Ma'am, ocean water.
Okay, very good, Pallavi. Anyone else? Anyone else? Okay, okay. So it's an interesting concept. Thank you so much, Pallavi. Pallavi says ocean water because that we cannot use it, but at least once we are going to use it or use this form of ocean water, we can calculate it. Now this is the water which we are actually using it, but we are not putting it into the calculation. Okay, that is your virtual water. Now this concept was given by Professor Tony Allen. It's the recent concept. I think it came in some 2014 around or 2012 maybe around. Okay? and uh, and they say that what if I tell you that you eat around 3,500 liters of water every day? Now, this is a huge amount of water. So there are two things. What does it mean when they say eat 3,500 liters of water every day? Okay, so let's first understand what is our approximate domestic consumption. So that is around 137 liter of water every day. And how? The maximum portion of water is consumed in bathing, followed by flushing, and then laundry, that is cleaning clothes. Then for the cleaning purposes, for example, mopping floors, etc. If there is a garden, then 1 to 2% in the gardening, and of course in cooking as well as in drinking purposes. Okay, but this is not that's it. This is not that's it. Okay, this is only 8% of what we are calculating. There is 92% of the water which we still are consuming, but we are not adding it in our water footprint. That is our uh, 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 our virtual water. Okay, and this is hidden in the food we eat and the clothes we wear. How? I'll show you with an example. So this person, Professor Paul, um, Professor Tony. So he says that if you want to holistically calculate the amount of water being consumed by every day and a proper and an honest water footprint, so whatever water that we are consuming in the visible form is not the right way of calculating it because it's just a very small fraction of it. Major amount of water is associated with whatever products we are using, whatever food we are eating, whatever clothes we are wearing. Okay? And that too should be taken into account because, of course, we are using those articles. So, whatever water that has been used in preparing them, that should also come into our calculation. And then only we will come to know how much amount of water we are using per person. Okay? So, let's take an example of one soda water. If I ask you, you have a 500 ml of soda water, or your bottle of Coke, how much amount of water is consumed in this thing? Of course, uh, logic says it's 500 ml because 500 ml is the quantity that I'm referring here to. But what about the other parts that we are still not able to visualize? I'll show you what. Now, the sweetener that has been used in making it sweet, of course, it's obtained from plants. Now, they're consuming around 30 liters of water. Now, this 30 liters of water, I'm saying for 500 ml of the Coke serving. Okay. If I talk about in huge, this will be multiplied with this. If I talk about 1 liter, this will become 60 liters and so on. Okay. Now, the caffeine that is being added in these aerated drinks, for this half liter serving, it consumes 53 liters of water. For flavoring devices, for flavoring agents, 80 liters of water. Okay, so this is the product that we are going to consume. But what about the bottle? What about the bottle that contains this Coke? This also that also has taken water into account. How? A molding of plastic bottles consuming 5.3 liters, one plastic bottle of half liter. Now, for the making the recipe, of course, 500 ml of water we have already added, and then 7 liters have been consumed in manufacturing and packaging. This adds to a total of about 175 liters of water that is associated with that soda bottle or with that Coke bottle of 500 ml. Okay. This water is something which we cannot use, which we are not able to see. We are wearing jeans pant. Now, if I say this jeans pant has already consumed around 165 liters of water, and because you are wearing that jeans pant, this simply implies that this 165 should be added into your account. Will we be able to believe it? But why shouldn't it go into an account when we are using, because that product which we are using it for that purpose only, that water was being consumed. So when we are calculating water footprint, that should also be taken into account. That is the total amount of water consumption. And when we calculate that, then we come to know, okay, this is why. If we sum that up, then we will find, okay, this is something very, very stressful, because this is equal, or this figure is so very high that if we add on to the amount of water that is available in the lakes and in the groundwater, then we will find that actually that's something to worry about, because that's less. Okay? So let's look into the other food products also. For example, if I say, and this is for 1 kg of that product. Okay? So for 1 kg of nuts, it's consuming around 22 lakh 29, it's around 22 lakh 30,000 liters of water for just 1 kg of nuts. Similarly, in producing peas, we consuming around some 2,800 of liters of water. For producing 1 kg of dark chocolates, some around 3,000 liters of water. For potatoes, also around 3,700 liters of water. So if you are eating 3 potatoes, it implies that you already have consumed around. If you are eating, sorry, 1 kg of potatoes, then it implies, or you have eaten 1 or half kgs of potatoes, that implies that your account has now around some around 1,500 liters of water in your account. Okay. Okay. Um, okay. Same as with the coffee, same as with the bananas, and same as with the other products also. Now, it's that there's a general observation that when we talk about food, mostly the non-vegetarian food contains around 3 times, around twice greater more water consumption is that of the vegetarian diet. And why is it so? Because the chain has increased, means that the links in the chains have increased, and because each link needs the water, so that water is added into account. How? So, for example, if we talk about a buffalo piece, which is known as your buff, outside countries it's eaten a lot. Okay, now that buffalo, in order to um, make him healthy, so as to get good quality of meat, that buffalo is feeded with a good amount of good grains. Now, in order to produce those grains, again, huge amount of water is used. Now, in order to live, that living being, that buffalo is also drinking huge amount of water. These both have been added. Okay. Now, in order uh, uh, to uh, to process that meat, in order to preserve that meat, another addition of the water. Okay, they all sum to the amount of water which is twice as high as that of the water that is needed by a vegetarian diet. Why? Because when I say I have to eat grains, then the only water that will be taken into account will be the amount of water that is there added in the uh, uh, grains during irrigation. Okay? Similarly, if I say a packet of bread, now if I say this packet of bread has a water footprint of about 100 liters, then of course, why not? Because it is made up of wheat. Now, for producing that amount of wheat, some amount of water was used for irrigation purpose. Then it was brought into the processing unit where water was being added to prepare the dough out of it, so that then it was taken for baking, and then the breads were obtained. So in that process also, the water was consumed. Okay? So this adds to around 550 liter of water for about one packet of bread. Similarly, is with every product. Okay? This is your virtual water, which is the complete accounting when we calculate the amount of water we are consuming every day. Okay? So the question is, can we help it in reducing it? And the answer is, of course, we can. And the thing is, and how we can? By checking our water footprint in an honest way. So it shouldn't just include the visible water consumption, whatever the amount of water we are taking for bathing, for brushing our teeth, for drinking, but also we need to take into account the water that we are eating, we are buying, and what we are using it. And the answer lies in our shopping bag. Okay? So what I believe is best way is by means to reduce, and this is all connected. This will reduce your water consumption, this will reduce your virtual water consumption, this will reduce your waste also, this will reduce your money, this will make you more efficient, is buy less. Buy less. What does it imply? It implies that uh, before going for buying anything, prepare a list. Just don't go at random. आज बाजार चलते हैं, देखते हैं क्या खरीदना है, ठीक है? या जो समझ में आएगा ले लेंगे. No, don't do this. Prepare a list. And before, और जब आपको list prepare करना होगा, तो आप क्या करोगे? You have to first go around your kitchen, go around your wardrobe, and you have to check what is the thing that is actually missing, या जो चीज खत्म हो रही है. Make that list. ठीक है? आप उसका स्टॉक एक या दो रख सकते हो. Otherwise, maintain the stock by keeping that thing in mind कि ठीक है, एक बॉटल अगर मेरे 50 दिन में खत्म हो रही है तो ठीक है, 2 बॉटल लेना काफी रहेगा, 100 दिन का कवर अप हो जाएगा. Don't ration yourself with 5 or 6 bottles or या फिर in much or more amount. Okay? First thing is this. Second thing is, um, this thing comes mostly at our age in form of clothes. Okay? Now, let me give an example. Now, what happens is that most of the time that we are buying is not out of necessity. It's because it's something new. It's something more attractive. It is something better than the previous one. तो उसमें होता क्या है? Say for example, if a market has launched some good variety of rice, now you already have a 5 kg bag of rice. Now, when you were wandering into the market, you found this good variety of rice that has recently came into the market and with certain good things. Now, because it's new and you are driven towards it, towards testing it, towards having it because it might be tastier, it might be good, we bought that 1 kg of rice. Okay. Now, of course, because it is of far good quality, it is more advanced. तो जब हम उसे कुक करेंगे तो of course we will enjoy it. अभी जब हम उसे enjoy करने लगेंगे तो जो 5 kg का पुराना चावल है, are we going to use it? We will mostly या तो वो वहीं का वहीं रखा रहेगा, or what we will use it, it will either get get rotten, या तो वो खराब होने लगे तो उसकी कीड़े पड़ जाएंगे, या फिर at the end we have to give it to someone. That is where it's creating waste. It's not in buying, it's buying in an insensible way, buying at random. Okay? Buying by getting swayed with whatever is coming into the market that is new, that is something attractive, and we are driven towards it. Okay? And this is best in our clothing systems. Now I'll give my own example. So there was this time when I used to go for a shopping and then I was क्योंकि उसमें दिमाग में नहीं रहता था, जाते थे खाने के लिए, वहीं पे शॉप्स देखा एक अच्छा ड्रेस रखा हुआ है, लगा वो this is something which is very attractive and I imagine myself, oh, I'll be looking very good in this. And but at that time I'm not calculating कि मेरा wardrobe already भरा हुआ है, क्योंकि मुझे भी ये नई चीज दिख रही है और मुझे वाकई का wardrobe में पड़ा हुआ सारा सामान बेकार लग रहा है. तो now I'll think कि अरे यार अब पैसे भी नहीं है या फिर इतना है, क्या करें, should I buy? फिर हमारे दिमाग में आया कि अरे यार ये फैशन में आया है, पता नहीं दोबारा रहेगा कि नहीं रहेगा, what to do? And then take it, okay, हमें इसे खरीद लेना चाहिए. ठीक, अभी खरीद के उसको घर ले जाने के बाद में क्या हुआ कि हमारा उसके साथ में फैशन was attached to it. Our focus will be on that dress. बाकी का जो wardrobe है वो सब पुराना हो गया, और उस ड्रेस को पहनने के बाद में of course we will feel good, we will feel happy, we will be we will get a different sort of recognition for people in a way, okay, I'm looking good and nice. But what about rest of the dresses? Abhi wo sab thande baste mein chali gayi. And the moment when again next time or next term will come when I'll find something more attractive and much more good and better in fashion as compared to the previous one, मेरे लिए वो ड्रेस जो पहले एक्साइटिंग थी अभी वो भी उसी वॉर्डरोब के पुराने कट्टे में पहुंच गया. ठीक है. So there is this interesting line we said by Ben Jennison something, who is an expert on leading sustainable lifestyle. So she says that actually out of this entire cloth wardrobe, it's only 12% that we are using. Uh, not sorry, 8 to 10% is something which we are using. 90 to 92% dresses or clothes are in form of what if. Okay? Means that is not a necessity. That we have kept keeping in mind. What if I have to go with such and such group of a friend? What if I have to go and attend a meeting? What if I have to go to such and such party? What if I have to uh, uh, um, go and hang out with my friends, with my partner? Those those are the bunch of 90% of the clothes that are there in the wardrobe. Okay, so how could that be done? Now I tell you a very interesting fact. Fashion is something which keeps changing every second, every minute. That is the strategy of consumeristic way, means the consumerism. Okay, that is the new culture of consumerism, that every time, every second, they produce something new. And their notion of creating new is because they want to attract us, they want to divert us, they want to buy more, they want us to buy more, okay? They want us to try more. Okay? And because that is adding on to their economy, their profits, and so on. Now, if you imagine, हमें ये चीज ले लेना चाहिए, हम फैशन में अपने आप को फिट पाएंगे. I tell you, after 10 days, you will find that also has become old for you. So why not to buy that thing when it is needed? आप उस समय उस फैशन के हिसाब से फिट हो जाओगे. Now let me make you understand in what way I'm trying to say. Say for example, one day जब ये realization धीरे धीरे आने लगे कि नहीं बहुत ज्यादा हो गया, मुझे कम करना चाहिए, this is keeping waste, etc etc. तो एक बार क्या हुआ कि गए फिर से वो अंदर से एक हैबिचुअल इंट्यूशंस और जो इंट्यूटिव हैबिट था खरीदने का कि हाँ खरीदना चाहिए मुझे. But then I told नहीं 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 कि वो कि फैशनेबल है ये वो ऐसा वैसा करके. But then I told myself कि नहीं 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 अभी मेरे पास बहुत कपड़े हैं, मैं पहले वो यूज कर लेती हूँ, maybe after 6 months I'll buy this. Okay? But then question comes कि यार ये तो तब तक दिख जाएगा. फिर मेरे दिमाग में अरे तो 6 months तक तो फैशन तो ये चलने ही वाला है, ये तो नहीं रुकने वाला है. उस 6 months में जो लेटेस्ट फैशन आएगा फिर बेटर, ये तो बहुत अच्छा है कि मुझे पहले के फैशन नहीं ट्राई करने पड़ेंगे, 6 महीने के बाद में जो फैशन आएगा मैं उसको फिर खरीद के ट्राई कर सकती हूँ. Okay? So always remember, whenever you are going to buy, you will fit yourself in that fashion in that particular period of time. Okay? हमारा क्वेश्चन ये हो सकता है कि अरे यार उस 6 महीने में तो हम आउटडेटेड रहेंगे फैशन से. That we have to change our mindset, because that idea of fashion lies in everyone's else head. But if and sometimes we feel ourselves socially uh, conscious about it. But let's start making change. Let's start telling them, see, I'm repeating these dresses because I am into this thing. It's not that I cannot buy, I can buy, but I am into this thing of reducing waste. And I think I'm independent of what people think about me, how I'm looking, how am I. I know that I have to reduce this waste. I have to manage my money. I have to manage things that I am with. And I will first use them properly and then I'll go for next buy. That can reduce our buying thing. And it has been shown that this thing is initially a challenging thing, but this is actually something very effective. और ये आपको तब पता चलेगा जब आप एक बार 4,000 का ड्रेस नहीं खरीद के लाओगे. And you will find 3 such dresses you have rejected in the month, and that has actually saved you around 10,000 money. And you can use it simply for eating something good like nuts or etc. That will create more glow to your face, inside glow to your face rather than dresses. Okay, and maybe of course, I'm not saying that you should get away with your clothing wardrobes. We can fix a time. We can set our time. Okay, this is the way. This is the time that we can go for buying, and we can get it. और पहले ऐसे ही होता था. एक मिडिल क्लास फैमिली में कि साल में 3 दफा कपड़े आते थे, जन्मदिन पर, होली पर, दिवाली पर. ओके, और और वो हमारे लिए इसलिए बहुत एक्साइटिंग होता था, वो कपड़ा हमारे लिए बहुत वैल्यूएबल होता था, क्योंकि दिवाली के बाद हमें पता है कि या तो होली पे मिलेगा या किसी त्योहार पे मिलेगा या फिर मेरे जन्मदिन पे मिलेगा वो कपड़ा. सो that used to create that sort of very nice excitement. Second thing is कि कपड़ा हमारा 4 पीढ़ियों तक चल जाता था, इफ नॉट 4 पीढ़ी एटलीस्ट 2 पीढ़ियों तक तो चल ही जाता था। हम अपने बड़े भाई बहन का पहन लेते थे और हमें ये बहुत एक्साइटमेंट होता था कि अभी ये मेरा भाई बड़ा हो गया, मैं मतलब इसके काम का नहीं रह गया, या मेरा बहन का नहीं फिट हो रहा है, नाउ आई विल बी वियरिंग इट, नाउ आई विल बी ड्रेसिंग इट, स्पेशली इफ यू आर सेम जेंडर सिबलिंग्स, हम पहनेंगे। और वो बहुत एक्साइटमेंट रहता था हमारे दिमाग में, तभी नोशन नहीं होता था, होता था सेकंड हैंड, व्हाई विल आई वियर इट अगेन, और फिर पीपल से कि तुम अपना बहन का पहन के आ गई हो, समथिंग समथिंग लाइक दैट, these all changes in all these things and mindsets had not just created huge amount of waste, but it has also narrowed down our vision, narrowed our way of thinking and in living life. Now, this has added an extra stress to our life कि हम हर समय सोचते रहते हैं हम कैसे लग रहे हैं, लोग क्या सोच रहे हैं मेरे बारे में, how am I looking, and this that easiness which was there earlier living the life, that is also now going. So these things are all closely associated and very thing. Okay. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Thank you, Pallavi. She has shared a wonderful experience. It happens because this is something which they are playing with us, with our psychology. And if you have this, means if somebody has the Netflix or something like that, you should watch this documentary on social dilemma, and you will actually understand how the industry, not just clothing and buying, how this industry of information and technology is working. Their only aim is to make profit out of your interest. And in that interest, we are giving away lots and lots of things. There's a wonderful documentary. It was an eye opener to me. And from that day, I decided to like cut short my social accounts. So I finished my Instagram. Twitter तो बहुत पहले था, वो तो मुझे logical नहीं लगा, तो मैंने उसको खत्म किया. And then I stuck only to the Facebook, and I decided, okay, this is the only time when I'm going to check it. I'm not going to put my mind into it. And I found that शुरू में बहुत तकलीफ और hard लगा, but that had made my life much more simpler and easier and casual, and I'm able to focus more on myself, on my thoughts, on what I like, on what I can do. So you should all watch that this documentary on social dilemma. It's a wonderful documentary. It's an eye opener. Okay? That how we get addicted to these things and we don't understand that we have actually become used to, and this has created lots of complications in our simple way of thought, where we used to enjoy wearing the second-hand garments of our friends or of our people. Okay? Anyways, so the best way is do not waste your food, because every food is not just a food article that you are seeing, it's also the amount of water that is added to it. Okay? So वो waste करने का मतलब है कि आपने उसके साथ साथ पानी भी add किया है. ठीक है? So now we come on to the once we have cleared and understood the concept of this entire water thing, and then how we can reduce this wastage of virtual water, we will now understand what are the reasons for this overutilization of surface and groundwater. So population is the cause for everything, जो हमने अभी डेटा में भी देखा, and of course rapid industrialization, and then is also because of the industrial requirements and needs, पानी ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा चाहिए. ठीक है? Now because of it, what is happening? Excessive water is being extracted, with which the water table is going down. Okay? And as now जब ये water table जाएगा, we have already discussed with soil that this groundwater table that maintains the soil moisture, soil humidity, ये भी चला जाएगा. अभी इस ह्यूमिडिटी के जाने से क्या होएगा? The texture of soil will become very dry, very porous, and they will easily subside. धंसने के chances उसके ज़्यादा होते हैं. That is why in several places हम कभी-कभी न्यूज़ में देखते हैं आज बिल्डिंग वहाँ धंस गई है, ज़मीन धंस गई. It's because of this overconsumption and extraction of the groundwater, with which the soil has lost all its stability in terms of the moisture that was holding it. These layers of water that was holding the water intact, the soil intact. Okay? Salt intrusion के बारे में हमने जब salinization के बारे में बात की थी, then we had discussed about the same in form of the, when we were telling जब हम over pumping करते हैं coastal area में, तो it formed that cone, and as a result of that, the water from the sea gets intruded and it becomes the part of this groundwater system. Okay. And that is what I had told, that land has become more susceptible to landslides and termites. Now, how earthquake? Now, water reduces the speed. Water reduces the impact and the intensity of these seismic waves because they act as an absorber to them. Air is a good transmitter. Okay? तो वाटर के जाने से और पोर स्पेसेस में से वाटर के खत्म होने से soil have become more susceptible to transfer or transport or to communicate these earthquake waves. Okay? And of course, drying up of wells, drying up of lakes. This is happening almost अगर आप villages में जाओ आप देखोगे और उनसे पूछोगे, you will find it's a common problem now. Okay? So now we need to understand what is aquifer. Okay? So the first important thing is aquifer is a term associated with some groundwater, no surface water. Aquifer is its storage water, then is the water that is stored in the form of a groundwater. Okay? This is an aquifer. So what is an aquifer? It's a body that contains your groundwater, um, either in between the layers of sediments or in the layers of the non-porous rocks. Okay, now how is it? Now, depending upon that, it can be of two types: confined aquifers and unconfined aquifers. Okay, now what are they? Now, confined aquifer का मतलब ये कि वो confinement में है, यानी कि वो accessible नहीं है, यानी कि हम उसको easily पानी वहां से निकाल नहीं सकते, क्योंकि ये दो लेयर ऑफ impervious rocks के बीच में होता है. Now remember, ग्राउंड वाटर के इकट्ठा होने के लिए एटलीस्ट बेस वाला, एटलीस्ट उसका बेस का लेयर इम्परवियस होना चाहिए. इम्परवियस का मतलब है इम्परमिएबल या नॉन पोरस होना चाहिए, तभी पानी रुकेगा. ठीक. नाउ इन केस ऑफ अ कन्फाइंड एक्विफर, ऊपर का लेयर भी उसका इम्परवियस होता है, यानी कि दैट डजंट अलाउज द वाटर टू पर्क्यूलेट. ठीक है. Whereas in case of unconfined aquifer, बेस तो ठीक है, एक तो इम्परवियस चाहिए ही चाहिए, नहीं तो वाटर पूरा ही नीचे चला जाएगा तो कहाँ रुकेगा पानी. ठीक है, तो वो तो एक नॉन पोरस होगा ही होगा, बट उसके ऊपर की लेयर्स जो है दे आर नॉन पोरस, क्योंकि वो सॉइल की लेयर्स होती हैं जिसमें कि आप इजीली ड्रिल करके पानी को बाहर निकाल सकते हो. कन्फाइंड एक्विफर में से पानी निकालने के लिए यू हैव टू पियर्स एंड गो थ्रू दैट इम्परवियस लेयर. ठीक है. एंड अंडर मोस्ट ऑफ दीज केसेस दिस इज क्ले. Clay doesn't allows the water to percolate or water to go into the deeper layers. ठीक है. Now the question is कि ठीक है, फिर तो ऐसे अनकन्फाइंड एक्विफर के लिए तो समझ में आ गया कि भाई रेन वाटर तो ठीक है जा रहा है, चूंकि वो ऊपर में उसके ऊपर में कोई भी impervious लेयर नहीं है, तो this rain water can easily percolate to the soil layers and it will form the part of groundwater. But what about confined aquifers? क्योंकि उसका तो ऊपर का लेयर ऑलरेडी impervious है, वो तो पानी को रेन वाटर पानी जो ऊपर से पर्कुलेट करते हुए आ रहा है उसको जाने नहीं देगा. And how they get recharged? For confined aquifer, the source of recharging lies far ahead from their original source. So they might be, because they might be in continuation, they form the part of some lake, or maybe some part of a river system, or maybe some part of a glacial system. That is the source of their recharge. Okay? So if the water in those lakes will go down, this simply implies that the water in the confined aquifers is also going down. Okay? So most of the water, groundwater that we are drinking is mostly from the unconfined aquifers. But sadly, because of the shortage of the unconfined aquifers and because they are going to the deeper layers, we are digging into the confined aquifers. ठीक है, अभी ये सोच जाने के बाद में भी फिर क्या ही बचेगा पता नहीं. Okay, so is the concept of the aquifers clear? फिर aquifers का concept clear है?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. फाइन. ठीक है. एक तो आपका प्रॉब्लम हो गया वाटर शॉर्टेज. ओके. नाउ अनदर प्रॉब्लम इज the water logging. That is also a problem. And where we have discussed it, we have discussed about the problem of water logging when we were discussing about salinization. कि जब पानी जरूरत से ज्यादा रुक जाएगा मिट्टी में, तो when it will evaporate, it will leave a salt layer that is creating the problem of salinization. Second, because of the water logging, rotting effect of the decomposition process it starts is at a rapid rate, with which the production of methane gas also takes place. This is the reason that why the rice fields are a huge source of potential source of methane gas, क्योंकि वहां पर हम फील्ड को भर के उसकी खेती करते हैं. ठीक है, राइस के लिए. Yeah, that is why they are source of this methane production. Okay? So there are natural reasons for the water logging. Say, for example, the soil texture is like that; it is not allowing the soil to water to percolate down. For example, soil is clay. Okay? Second, rainfall is huge. It's very heavy. तो इतना heavy है कि या तो पानी को टाइम नहीं मिल रहा है soil percolate करने का. दूसरा ये है कि soil has become already saturated with water, so it won't allow the water to go down. उस केस में भी आपका water log हो जाएगा, वहां पर log हो जाएगा. ठीक. Third is which where we are responsible is intensive agricultural practices where we are using huge amount of water. पूरा खेत का खेत तालाब की तरह भरकर हम खेती कर रहे हैं. And third, we haven't created any better system of drainage. तो वहां पर क्या होगा कि जितना पानी इकट्ठा हो गया लेकिन उसके निकलने का कोई रास्ता नहीं है. Okay? So that is what all creates the problem of waterlogging. And as a result of this, what will happen? As I had already told you, decomposition rate will increase, salinization will increase, methane gas production will increase. Soil to air spaces that they will get replaced by water, as a result of which the vegetation will start dying. Okay, and the soil also loses its strength and minerals will get diluted. Okay? What are the methods to prevent waterlogging? Of course, excessive irrigation or faulty practices of intensive agricultural culture have to be avoided. Subsurface drainage या फिर drainage pattern properly develop करना चाहिए. And there's third very important fact, that is we need to check. It is very important कि किसी भी agricultural crop को grow करने से पहले हम वहाँ के soil profile को check करके ये find कर लें whether the water table is enough to grow that plant or to grow that crop. इसमें मैं एक छोटा सा example मैं आपको दूंगी and then I'll finish this class. This is the example of a बुंदेलखंड और ये मेरा आंखों देखा वर्णन है. So in बुंदेल, बेटा somebody's mic is on. Please can you mute yourself? I'm not. श्रेया बेटा आप अपना माइक ऑफ करो, स्पीकर माइक्रो अपना स्पीकर. थैंक यू कोई बात नहीं, ठीक है. So in this Bundelkhand, now Bundelkhand is a region which is a plateau region and it has a very low water table and it's quite in an elevation. जो उसका main sea level है जमीन का काफी height पर है. The water table उसमें काफी गहराई में है. So this region mostly grows wheat and pulses. Now recently, they have came up with this crop known as mint, which they call this specifically as peppermint. Okay? Now these mint का क्या करते हैं? They produce this bio oil, and because it has a huge demand in the market, they have a good price. So they have kept aside this wheat, not wheat, क्योंकि wheat तो जाड़ों में grow करने के बाद में अप्रैल में harvest हो जाता है. तो गर्मियों के सीजन में where they initially used to grow some vegetables or used to grow cucumbers, etc., which are the summer vegetables, or they used to keep the field empty. Now they are using it for growing peppermint. Now the problem with this mint is it needs huge amount of water. It requires huge amount of water, and the impact is direct impact is in the form of a visible impact because nearby fields में जो दूसरे लोग खेती कर रहे थे उन्होंने देखा कि उनका जो ग्राउंड वाटर है वो इतना नीचे चला गया कि नाउ जो पंप पहले वो लगाते थे ऊपर में अभी उनको 10-10 मीटर 20-20 मीटर गहराई में जाकर उनको वो पंप लगाना पड़ता है टू एक्सट्रैक्ट द वाटर. So some of that have when they have actually requested the other people why they are doing so. So of course they said कि नहीं उनका वो पर्सनल फील्ड है और वो ऐसा नहीं क्यों उसे बंद करेंगे and so and so. So it could be stopped only by two things, either by law or by force enforcement or by self-realization. Now there, the only thing is not about money. It's mainly about selfishness. पहले भी आपका ग्रो हो रहा था पर अभी इसमें और ज्यादा पैसा मिल रहा है. So we started forgetting about the others' need and the problem that it is creating at large to all the people. 1% की खेती 10 लोगों को बर्बाद कर रही है. This attitude needs to be changed. Okay? But if sometimes people are not very understandable and sensitive, then in that case, law plays an important role. Okay? So in next class, I'll stop here. And in the next class, we will talk about salinity, although we have already discussed about it much in detail in the soil part. हम इसमें थोड़ा